Hello again and welcome back to lesson 2. Today we're going to be learning about bar charts and how we can use them to represent categorical and discrete data. Before you begin, you should complete the quizzes task. There should be a link on Compass with the class code. Once you've done that, then please come back here and we're going to continue. As discussed in lesson 1, bar charts are a useful tool used to represent discrete and categorical data. When constructing a bar chart, you need to include a title. Your axes need to be labeled like they are in here. All of the columns or bars, so these here are called columns or bars, all of them need to be the same width as they are in this example. So all of them are the exact same width. You need to take care when you're drawing your graphs. And it's really quite important that you keep all the bars the same. You also want to ensure that all of the distances between the bars are also uniform throughout. They don't necessarily have to be the same width as your bars, but they do need to be uniform as you go. Point 5 says the first column needs to begin half the column width from the vertical axis. So this here is our vertical axis. And as you can see, we did not start our first bar right along the vertical axis. Instead, you need to leave a gap, and that gap needs to be exactly half of the width of your bar or column here. So notice how the distance from the vertical axis to the graph is the same as half of the width of your bar. So this distance here, half of the width of the bar, is the same as the distance that you need to leave out the front. I'd like you now to pause the video, copy out the notes on this slide, and then come back and we'll do an example together. Alright, so now we're going to have a go at an example. So here we have a frequency table which shows different modes of transport used by students to get to school. So you can see that 4 students travel with the car, 7 take the bus, and so on. Before you begin, you need to ensure you keep in mind what we've just discussed. So your graph needs to have a title, your axes need to be labeled clearly, and they also need to be evenly scaled. So really that means that we should be using a ruler. Your columns need to be of the same width, and each gap should be the same between each column. It's also really important that the first column begins half of the distance of the column from the vertical axis. I'd like to encourage you now to pause the video, have a go at drawing the bar chart on your own. It's okay if you don't have graph paper, just make sure you use a ruler. Once you've done that, come back here and we'll go through the answer together. Okay, so this is my version. I've done this on graph paper and using a pencil, and it contains all of the required aspects we've discussed prior. So we have a title. Your title needs to be relevant to what the graph is about. We also have all of the columns that are the same width. For me, I used 1 centimeter width columns, and they are all the same width. I've also labeled the axes. Normally the vertical axis is going to be the frequency or number of people or number of results of some sort, and then your x-axis is going to be similar to your title, and it will just explain what the information is about. Finally, we need to make sure that all of the gaps between bars are the same. So what I've decided to do, and this is often a good idea, is I've used the gaps which are half the width of the bars. So my bars were 1 centimeter wide, and so therefore the distances between each of the columns, so each of the bars, is half a centimeter, so exactly half of what my bars are. It's really important though to do that at the start of the bar. So as you can see, I have started my first bar half a centimeter away from this vertical y-axis here. And you need to make sure you do that. You also need to ensure that your data points are exactly halfway between your bars. So as you can see here, I have, for example, bus, which is my mode of transport. It is exactly halfway between the two ends of the bar. So exactly halfway. So when you're drawing your bar chart, just make sure you have all of these points ticked, because otherwise you will unfortunately lose marks. So what you need to do now, if you haven't already, go back and write down the notes on the previous slides, and then have a go at completing Lesson 2 bar charts consolidation task. You will find that in new class feed. You also need to make sure you correct your answers using the solutions provided. And then you need to have a go at question 2 and 3 of your GAT. Have a good day.